Welcome back to In Your Neighborhood. I'm your host, Charlotte Brown, and on today's show, we've been talking with Jay Barnard. He's known as Chef Recovery, and he's been sharing with us his recovery from addiction. And before the break, we were talking about kind of how things transitioned from 12 years old, picking up your first drink. How does that happen in terms of, like, you went from, drinking to marijuana to crack cocaine to heroin? Is it something doesn't work anymore? You're fearless of trying anything. You're wanting to numb things even more. How does that progression happen?
That's just it. Is you can't get high anymore. So you just move on to the next thing. But the next thing that you try is even more addictive than the first thing, right? So the minute that I started doing crack, it took me over. I couldn't stop. I didn't understand how to stop. I just, it just ate me up. And the lying and the manipulation and the backstabbing and everything that came with that dirty business, it's heartbreaking, really. It really is. I remember 2001, I tried to do this geographical cure, right? Because they tell you, but the problem is if Jay goes wherever Jay goes. So if Jay's hanging around Charlotte, Tim, and Joe, Jay's going to find Charlotte, Tim, and Joe. So if Jay doesn't want to fix Jay, then Jay doesn't fix Jay, and Jay continues on with the cycle, right? So if nothing changes, nothing changes. Mm-hmm. And nothing changed. And I actually got semi-successful down south. I got top sales guy in a business for 3 years in a row. I actually got promoted out to Barrie, Ontario, with my partner Jason, but I hit a rock bottom in 2005. It was the lowest time of my life. I made a conscious decision. I ended up getting busted driving while under suspension for the 5th time, and I ended up losing the business. And I remember it was a Wednesday. I made a conscious decision on the Wednesday that I'm going to kill myself. And the committee in my head had actually was okay with all this. It's okay. You're taking the burden off yourself. You're not going to be a failure to your family anymore. People don't have to look down on you. You don't have to try at life anymore. You don't have to try and be somebody you're not anymore. And I remember that Thursday was like the best sleep of my life, because the committee in my head knew that I was gonna end my life. And I went to the bar and I got a bunch of these green pills that I still don't know what they were, and I snorted one and I took 12, and I woke up in a pile of black puke, barely breathing. And this lady that I was seeing at the time, because in my addiction I become very abusive. That's how you are. That's just there's no way around it. I didn't know how to channel my anger. I didn't know what anger was. Nobody explained what anger was to me. What is anger, right? I didn't know what it was, and so I was abusive. And I beat her up, and that wasn't the right thing to do, but that's what you do in your addiction, right? And I hadn't seen her in 12 days. She left, and she came back, and she found me in a pile of black puke, barely breathing. And I got rushed to the hospital on an overdose, and that was the worst feeling of my life, was sitting in a hospital for 3 days knowing that I failed at killing myself. And the thoughts that were going through my mind in that hospital were, how am I supposed to look at myself? How am I supposed to do this? I can't even succeed at killing myself. Like, this is, anyways, I left the hospital and after 3 days, and I went and got a 60-ounce of rye and an ounce of crack. And I tried killing myself again. And I had a belt hooked up, and every time I took a blast in a drink, I went up to the belt and said, this time, this time, this time, this time, this time, this time. And this time never came. And 28 hours later, I turned myself into the police station on the charges of driving while under suspension, and ended up doing 9 months in the penitentiary. So jail actually saved my life that time.
Wow. Just crazy.
Yeah, it's a life of unmanageability and not knowing what to do with myself, because I never had direction. And the easiest way to get rid of that is to end your life. Grateful today that I'm here to tell my story and that I actually lived through it and that I manned up enough to to become a man, you know, because in 2008, February 11th, 2008, I went off to treatment at the Salvation Army, and that's why I'm out here to speak, you know, because I'm coming up on 10 years, so I thought, you know, like, I never thought that I'd ever make it to 10 years, and I never thought that I'd ever be so successful, and it was the Salvation Army that that gave me the hope. It was the only place that had the door that would open for me. And my counselor back home, Sandy Paul, sent me there in Ottawa. And she said to me, I don't think you're going to succeed. I think you're going to fail. It's God-driven. And at that point, I blamed everybody, including God. And I'm like, why are you sending me there? I failed I failed at killing myself. I failed at this. I failed at being an employee. I failed at being a son. I failed at being a grandparent. I failed at everything. Now you're sending me somewhere where I'm going to fail again? She said, just go. But what I didn't understand is, like, she was the only person that showed me this hope, so I didn't want to fail for her. So she actually gave me, like, the little match of light that maybe I have a life.
And how did you wind up crossing paths with her? Is this when you came out of penitentiary?
No, I went back to Kenora in 2006, and I continued to use her right up till 2008. Okay. Did a couple stints in jail for possession of the purpose of trafficking cocaine. And I was just at a point of, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. The stints of jail were coming faster. The using wasn't working anymore. I'd sit there and drink a 40-ouncer of whiskey and couldn't get drunk. And so I think I figured out I had a problem. I just didn't know how to deal with that problem. Mm-hmm. And I went to her, and then I started this journey to life at the Salvation Army Boost Center in Ottawa.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about that. You walk through those doors. Are you wanting to make a change? Are you ready for a change? What were the thoughts that were kind of going through your mind?
Well, when I landed in Ottawa at the airport, I thought that I might never get a hamburger again. So I went to Wendy's and had my last hamburger, I thought. But I honestly was going there to stay out of jail. I wasn't going there to stay clean and sober. That wasn't my idea. I thought you just took a bunch of morphine or a bunch of pills and you just slept for 4 months and then I'd wake up and continue this cycle. So, like I said, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I walked through those doors and I didn't know what to expect because it was the first time I ever got clean and sober. I never tried getting clean and sober. I never tried that before. So I really just dove into the program of trying to get myself better. It wasn't easy. It isn't easy. And I fought myself in a lot of areas, and but it was for the best, right? And I remember I was around 3 months or something like that, and they sent me home to see my family. And I hadn't seen my family out of sober eyes in like 16 years. And I didn't see that they loved me, and because I didn't know what love was, and they loved me, and so I came back to Ottawa, and I was on this pink cloud, and then I crashed, and so I was going to go use, and I went to a bar, and I knew if I was, if Charlotte asked me if I wanted a beer, that's okay, because now I can blame Charlotte. But if Jay bought the beer, now Jay's the problem. So I knew I had the problem. So my mission was to go to this bar and hopefully somebody would buy me a drink, and then I'd say it was their fault and this is why I can't get better. Well, that didn't happen, and I went there 3 nights in a row. The third night, I actually went to the bar and bought a beer, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw bus 11. And I ran to the bus and got back to the treatment center, and I told my counselor, like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm ready to drink. I'm ready to use. You told me my life would be better. My life's better using. I don't go through all this. The committee in my head tells me all these stupid stories. Like, this isn't, like, you told me I'd be better. And she just said, go upstairs and write down 2 things. Or go down and write some things that you've changed. And I went upstairs and wrote down 2 things. I was clean and sober. And that was it. And she said, if you have a problem with that, go ask the people in the treatment center. And so I went and asked, and like I said, I didn't know how to channel my anger, so I got in fights at the treatment center. And so I went to those guys first, and they said, yeah, Jay, you changed. Obviously, right? That's the instant gratification. It's like taking a drink or taking a blast of crack, instant gratification. But then I went to the guys that were there the whole time, and they're like, Jay, look at yourself. You're running around a treatment center asking people if you changed. And boom, it hit. That my ego, my pride, my self-centeredness, and my selfishness was running my whole entire life. And I couldn't hear what Charlotte was saying. I couldn't hear what my mom was saying. I couldn't hear what the counselors were saying. I couldn't hear anything because it was always about me. And I went downstairs and begged to stay because now I knew I had to go to the real world, and I was scared of the real world. And that's step one. I'm powerless and my life's unmanageable.
Awesome. Well, we're going to have to take another quick break, but this story does have a happy ending, so be sure to keep watching.